We're pleased to introduce Kip Schulteis, our architect for the West Golf Course renovation. Kip, come on in.
Great. Thank you, Rob. It's a privilege to be here today. Before I start this presentation, let me give you a little background about myself and a little bit of the history of my company. You can see on the screen here, this is my 27th year in the business of golf course design. The first 6 I spent as a designer / senior designer for Fred Couples and Gene Bates, working out of their Palm Beach Gardens and San Jose, California offices. My educational background is in civil engineering from Purdue University. I also have an MBA in finance from the University of Miami. My professional affiliations besides Fred and Gene is I've done 2 projects in tandem with Jack Nicklaus, one with Ian Baker Finch. I've been involved in many superintendent chapters around the state, specifically Palm Beach, Everglades over in Naples, several club manager chapters, things like that. Intimately involved in the Honda Classic as one of their ambassadors up there in Palm Beach Gardens every spring. On the right side of the screen over here, you'll see my senior architect, Lee Marshall. Lee has been with me almost 6.5 years now after spending 10 years with Greg Norman, golf course design. The bottom of the screen is Graham Mecker. Graham has been with me almost 12 years. Graham does what we call a lot of our computer-aided design, or CAD, a lot of the Photoshop renderings, or a lot of the pretty pictures you tend to see as we start going through the master planning process. A little history of my company. Golf Inc. magazine did an analysis of the most active firms during the recessionary years of 2007 to 2011. We were actually the 3rd most active firm doing renovations, Reese Jones being number 1. Obviously, you see Reese's advertisement here on the top of the screen. Since that time, we actually were the most active firm in the U.S. in 2015, and over the last 5 years, done over $137 million worth of construction of things that we have designed, literally all in South Florida, in the bottom 7 counties between Martin, Palm Beach, Broward, Dade, and all the way up through Lee, Collier, and into Sarasota. So, been very active in the southeast and southwest Florida markets in all the private club industry. A little more detail of some of the projects in the local area you may be familiar with that we've touched. Adios Golf Club, and a former Arnold Palmer design that we did back in 2014. High Ridge Country Club gets a lot of acclaim as being one of the better golf courses in southeast Florida that we redesigned back in 2010. Lost Tree Club was my first job with Mr. Nicklaus. Jack lives at Lost Tree Village. We did that in tandem with Jack back in 2002. Addison Reserve, an Arthur Hills course we did in 2012 and 13. The Boca Raton Resort, Riviera Country Club down in Coral Gables, a $9.5 million redesign of a Donna Ross golf course. Delray Dunes, my first Pete Dye project. Admiral's Cove, $12 million up there in Jupiter. John's Landing, the Fazio course. Glen Eagles, Ballin Isles, and Meisner, all these bigger projects in the local area. Generally speaking, you can see we've taken a lot of famous architects' work, manipulated them and modified them to the owner and client's desires and means, and gave them back a product they're very happy with. So we're very proud of all these clubs on this list, and looking forward to putting Wycliffe on this list as well. Giving you some examples of some of the graphics we produce as we're going through the master plan and concept process. This is a before and after of the North Course at Ballin Isles. The image on the left is an overhead picture of what the 13th hole used to look like. The image on the right is what we were proposing. The next picture shows you what it looked like before. Kind of bland, a little boring, cart path running right down the middle of the hole, and we took the exact same footprint of land and created this with it. New rock wall, moved all the green forward, elevated the backdrop, framed it out with some pretty landscaping. Same concept here at Adios. Again, some pictures of what Graham does in the office as far as the 2-dimensional and 3-dimensional graphics. 2-dimensional overhead, talking about the concept of the hole. 3-dimensional graphics showing you kind of what it looks like from an aerial view. This is what hole number 1 looked like before at Adios. Okay? Very different. There used to be a lake on the left-hand side down here behind the trees. They wanted to bring it out more in play. In the same footprint, this is what it looks like today. Quite a bit different. A little more dramatic, a little more eye-appealing, a lot more aesthetic value, a lot more aesthetic character, if you will. So just showing you a few examples of what we can produce here. Now, we started this whole process with Wycliffe, like we do with every other club, doing focus groups. And the reason why we do that is, let me take a step back in history a little bit. You know, early in my career, when a busy year was 1 or 2 projects, and we would get called by a club like Wycliffe and say, hey, come meet with us. We want to develop a plan for your West Golf Course. Sit around with our Greens Committee, and coincidentally, most of the Greens Committee members were 5 or 6 good playing male golfers, the general manager and the superintendent. And over the course of 2 and 3 months, we put a great plan together. Okay? The problem was when we took that plan to the overall membership and put that thing up on a screen, and we were real proud of it, you could see people in the audience wondering, did he design it just for them? Did he think about us at all? You know, some of the ladies, some of the higher handicapped men, you could see there wasn't a lot of thought process that went into that. So we took a step back a few years back and said, how do we get more members involved so that we can get more positive feedback and a positive vote on the first try? So we started, before we do any master planning, we start with focus group. And the reason why we do focus groups is because golf course renovation in South Florida is normal and typical. I just put 9 or 10 clubs of 20 or 30 that we've done in this area, and I'm one of 5 or 6 different architects. So we use our golf courses in Florida 365 days a year, unlike what you may see up north where they're used for 5 or 6 months, they shut them down, let them breathe. We're constantly under wear and tear. It's like using your car every day versus every third day, or using your kitchen appliances every day versus once a week. Things wear out a little faster, thus we renovate a little more frequently down here, okay? So because they're normal and typical, now specifically how we do this is I ask the club to give me 4 different skill sets. Give me your high handicap men, your high handicap ladies, your low handicap men, your low handicap ladies, and let me meet with them all separately. What I'm going to do, same as we did here on the West Golf Course at Wycliffe, I'm going to put every hole on the West Course up on a screen, and I'm going to ask your opinion. What do you like and what do you not like about it? Okay? If you tell me a hole's great, we literally go on to the next hole. If you tell me there's some things you'd like to change, because we know that greens are your assets of your greens, your tees, your bunkers, some of your bulkheads are due to be replaced soon. So if we're replacing them, should we replace them exactly as they exist or use that opportunity to change them? Okay? I use an example of a USGA green. A USGA green in South Florida these days is about $4.50 a square foot. It's $4.50 a square foot if I rebuild the exact same green with the exact same contours, or it's $4.50 a square foot if I completely change it. Okay? So, for instance, if you can use your imagination on hole number 1, a lot of you complain about how much the slope of the green goes down towards the water. I can rebuild that green with exactly the same slope, and you'll still complain about it after it's done. Or we can take this for the exact same amount of money, we can completely change it and give you something back that you're more happy with. So why don't we do that? So those are the kind of questions that we're asking all these skill sets. We take notes from each individual skill set separately. We then take that back to the office. We go through all 4 lists of notes, and we literally put a plan together that tries to satisfy both ends of that spectrum. Okay? We're only impacting the things that are important to the club. Everything you all said was great. We leave it alone. We're not here to spend any more money than we have to. We only want to address what's important to you. Okay? And that's how we came up with these plans. And since that time, when we've done things this way, we've had a success rate of over 95% of passing these projects on the first try. Okay? So it's worked out very, very well because, again, we're only giving you what you're asking for. So with that in mind, I'm going to start going hole by hole on the concept plan that has been developed since we did these focus groups, started drawing up concepts, met with the Greens Committee, tweaked it, and now we're at the point where we're ready to present it to the membership. Hole number 1. Okay? In a very general sense, you're going to see a lot more teeing area. I'm not going to go hole by hole and talk to you how much, but there's your tees on every hole are going to be a lot larger. We've also formalized some of your forward tees that are right now kind of on unlevel areas or just kind of put out there as a mowed out spot. So all of your tees are now formalized and made a lot larger. The biggest change we're making in hole number 1, this all goes back to focus group comments, is the amount of balls that fall to the right towards the water, particularly along of the landing area and into the approach. It's hole number 1. We don't want the hole number 1 to be overly difficult. There were a lot of complaints about the severity of the green that I mentioned earlier, trying to minimize the cross slope from left to right down to the water. So what we've done here is we've actually shown a little bit of lake being filled in by the approach area there, try to open that up, and then what we've done is taken the wood bulkhead wall or rock, we'll get to that in a minute, and extended it back to the approach to try to buy that amount of real estate back. So now there's a very comfortable way to come into that green without being a forced carry on the opening hole. Okay? Again, we want to make sure everybody gets out there quickly. Pace of play isn't really slowed down the opening hole, and everybody just gets there and starts enjoying their round. For the same reasons, we've taken these 2 bunkers and actually eliminated them, left this guy down here as more of a target line bunker. Again, just trying to make the opening hole a little more fair, a little more easy. Okay? I make that comment telling you that over 18 holes, the golf course will be, in some cases, the playability will be improved. The challenge of the golf course will still remain intact. Okay? The green itself is moved slightly off the water. The bulkhead wall still remains on the right-hand side, but there's a bunker now inserted between the green and the wall, so there's a place where if a ball misses, it's collected into a bunker instead of going right in the water. Again, all for pace of play measure. All right? Going on to hole number, actually here's a rendering of hole number 1. There's 2 renderings we're going to show you. The only difference in the 2 renderings is the type of wall. We are still in discussions with the club about whether we want to go with wood walls or rock walls. It's about literally the only thing left to decide, so we're going through the motions of trying to decide one versus the other. The rock walls are currently in the budget, but there's some discussion, getting a hold of 18, because 18 West and 18 East are in the actual same view corridor, and how they might relate is still up for discussion. So we're actually going through the motions of making that determination. This picture is showing you what the three-dimensional view perspective would be of this hole as a wood wall. Here's the same thing as a rock wall. If you look closely, you'll be able to tell the difference. We've done rock walls on a lot of different golf courses in South Florida. Doesn't matter to us which one you choose. It's just a personal preference. The club's going to make that decision. Okay? Going on to hole number 2. The biggest change in hole number 2, again, I'm not going to get to all the T's there, but a general theme of the golf course is a lot of what we call the concrete screening area, coquina areas, soft path, whatever you want to call waste bunkers. These big white areas right here are being replaced either with turf or formal cart paths. So they're all going to go away and then be replaced. So down the left-hand side of this hole, you will have a formal concrete cart path where you have soft path right now. That's a consistent theme you're going to see on other holes such as 5 and others. All right. The big waste area that's in the middle of the fairway has been changed to actually do some more formal bunkers, more left to steer you away from the homes. We've enhanced and enlarged the landing area, short and right of the true landing area, to make it a lot bigger out there where the waste bunker is now. The green is in the same place but with a slightly different access. Okay? So it's just, the real difference in this hole is just a little bit of strategy and the change of the waste bunker and the cart path. Everything else stays basically the same. Okay? Hole number 3. Again, a consistent theme of trying to make improved playability for some mid and high handicappers. Larger tees. If you look closely at the drawing on the right is actually the same picture you see on the left. It's just been grayed out so you can see what's being proposed over top of it. We're showing a bigger approach area, filling in just a little bit of the lake there. The green gets a little bit bigger to the right. It is a slightly less contoured green right now. It's kind of severe. Larger green. In general, most of your greens are going to be a little bit larger. And we insert a bunker, again, a little bit like number 1, where it's a collection bunker, keeping balls from going into the water right away instead of hitting the side slope of the green and kicking right in. So there's a way to speed up play there and make things a little more player friendly. Now, let me make a general comment. You've seen on the first and second holes a little bit of lake being filled in. Okay? General rules of South Florida water management means that all of your water at Wycliffe, when it rains at Wycliffe, all the water's got to stay on the golf course and it gets released into the canal system at a design rate by South Florida Water Management. Your lakes are basically the drainage basins. When we fill one in, we must recreate it somewhere. Okay, so you're going to see on a number of holes here where we're filling things in. We will be balancing that through a combination of some lake enlargements, particularly more on the back 9 to balance that all back out. So at the end of the day, you have what we call a permittable plan through South Florida Water Management. So if any of you get alarmed, you say, hey, we're filling in a lake and it's going to cause a flooding problem, we will be balancing it back out. Okay? Hole number 4. The bunker that you see right short of the landing area here has been moved down the fairway more. Some of the comments we got from focus groups was, hey, we hit over the bunker, but when we hit over the bunker, it kicks to the right. So we're going to move the bunker on down the hole to be more relevant to longer hitters. All right. At the same time, we're going to thin a few trees out here, enlarge the fairway slightly to the left. Same thing here that we showed you on the last hole. We're filling a little bit of the 2 coves of water that pinch the fairway between the first and second landing areas. We'll trim a little bit of land here to make up for that, to balance that back out. Again, just trying to make a little bit more wider fairway, particularly at the turn point of the second turn. Okay? Bunkers are still existing outright. The bunker short of the second landing area has been removed. The biggest change here, this was a thing that we permitted actually a year ago. There's a big cypress head that's to the right of number 4 green and to the right of number 7 green, if you can imagine. If you miss either one of those greens by 5 or 10 feet, you almost fall into an unplayable area. So the idea is that we permitted that to be mitigated over another part of the property a year ago. So that will be removed, those trees will actually be removed. That will all be filled up, put some landscaping in, and actually create some bailout area to the right of 4 and to the right of 7 to improve playability of those areas. Okay? So you got a bigger green complex, larger green, again, buying some more real estate into the lake there a little bit and creating some backdrop behind the green on 4. Okay? Hole 5. Hole 5, again, larger tees. Another example of we're going to removing the concrete screening cart path area in favor of formal cart path. Actually makes your fairway a little bit larger. Everything on the outside stays the same. You see a little bit of filling of lake. We got a lot of comments about, hey, you're better players here, just like we're trying to address for higher handicappers. You're better players in this hole. We're actually hitting the ball too far right into lake on their drives. So we're actually going to fill a little lake just after the landing area, cut a little bit in front of the green, cut a little bit along this left side point to try to balance that back out. All right? Because there's no more soft waste bunker here, A new formal bunker has been put long right, again, to steer you out to the left a little bit. The green is rebuilt basically in the same place because it is basically wedged in the corner, really can't go anywhere else, but well surrounded by bunkers just like the old green is. Okay. Hole 6. Biggest change here, if you look at the bunker strategy that exists on the existing plan here, the bunkers in the middle have been removed. Okay? The bunker that's very, very short here that really only came into play for people that hit the ball very far has been removed. This bunker is actually still here, but actually slid down the fairway just a little bit more. And what we call a target line bunker is added for aiming points off the back couple tees. So there's a turning bunker here that you want to aim at. Same turn here. Big wide fairway out here. The green itself, we flipped. And the reason why we flipped it, because the bailout side of this green, if you kick right of this green, it goes right down the cart path and OB. Okay? We're actually going to try to keep your ball in play a little more. Take that green, rotate it over, put the bunker on the right, so if you hit one right or you slice one, you get caught up in the bunker, you don't go out of bounds, and that way you've got a big containment area, big bailout area, more left now, so more balls will stay in play. Okay? Hole 7. Again, larger tees. The cart path between the back two tees has been routed down and routed on the right-hand side so it doesn't cross in front of the tee that's well used by a lot of members here at Wycliffe. Again, soft path replaced with formal cart path. This little feature, you saw several holes where we have bunkers that are kind of framing landing areas on different sides. This is just a tree because on the north side, shade isn't nearly a problem on the north side of a hole. So we're going to take one of your prettier trees on the property, transplant it here well short of the landing area, just to steer you away from the homes because the homes are fairly close right there. We want to make sure you steer away from that. Play out right. Again, we've actually taken this green kind of like what we did in hole number 4, trying to buy you some real estate in that 4-7 area. Push that green out into the water a little bit, put a new bulkhead wall on it. There's a lot more room now to come into that green, but there's still a Sunday pin placement sitting out there on the point for those of you who want to risk it. So improving playability, but increasing strategy at the same time. Okay. Hole 8. Again, bigger tees. Taking your bunker strategy, moving it down the hole a little bit. You've got these two guys here in this one. We've taken this bunker, moved it down here a little bit, taken this bunker, moved it down here a little bit. Again, trying to make the challenge a little more relevant for longer hitters and not so penal for players that don't hit it as far. The green itself, again, a little bit like the last one, or I'm sorry, number 6. Flip the green over, again, protecting the out-of-bounds side from losing golf balls. Okay? Hole number 9. Arguably one of the biggest changes we're going to make in the entire golf course. When we first came out here to Wycliffe, we saw, boy, it's a lot easier. The angle of this green is a lot easier for the better players than it is for the high handicappers. If you think about it, the tees over here have a much longer carry over water than the tees over here. Usually you find that in reverse. So what we decided, let's show that how that would work in reverse. So we're actually going to fill part of this lake in over here. We're going to cut it here, cut it back by the tees to make up for that. Okay? What we're trying to do is actually make it more challenging for those players using the tees further back and make it a little more playable for those tees, the players using tees going forward. Okay? What we do here is we take the green and move it down to the right a little bit so there's a little more area back in here because we look at those two intersections saying this is one of the more focal points on the golf course that's viewed not only from the golf course but also from the surrounding community because people pull up the streets and see a lot of this area. So we really want to make this a focal point and really dress this area up. We're going to elevate the area behind this green as a backdrop like a stadium effect and then spend a lot of money on putting some really good color back there that's seen, again, not only from the golf course but also as you drive through the community. What that might look like in 3 dimensions looks like this. This is our 3-dimensional picture with the wood wall. Again, high backdrop, trees back here, framing everything out, really pretty look. Again, you're using the forward tees, you can now see your carryover water has been significantly reduced. You're playing the back tees, you've got more of a carryover water than you used to. It's the way it should be. Okay? Same picture using a rock wall. Same concept. Again, I mentioned how we're still going through that determination about which one to use. That'll be decided by the club in the very near future. Okay? Probably taking this hole, and what was already a pretty good hole, hopefully this is one of your signature holes on a golf course when we're all done. Hole 10. Similar theme. The coquina area, concrete screening area has been replaced with a formal concrete cart path, much larger tees. The strategy in this hole has been slightly changed. The bunker, again, short, and this guy here, we put them over here right to steer you away from the homes over here. The green itself is still in the same angle. Now, this was a problematic green in the focus group sessions about how hard it fell off the back side. What we're doing with that green is we're actually going to slide it to the left. There's 2 trees over here on the left-hand side of that green that we're going to remove, and you slide that green that way. So in essence, what we have room for some elevation to come in behind that green for back support, so balls will not foul at the back anymore. At the same time, by moving that green to the west slightly, we can now get a cart path access coming up behind that green, because this is one of your longer walks to and from the green on the whole golf course. That'll get us this turnaround point that's further behind the green, so it'll save 40, 50 seconds every time a group comes and goes off that green complex. Same green, same angle, just more containment on the back side. Okay. Hole 11. Concrete screening area has been removed in favor of a more formal cart path. Those of you who play hole 11, you might recognize there's 2 rows of trees here on the right-hand side. Some of the trees have been deemed to be problematic for some of the forward tee players. Because there's 2 rows of trees and the trees on the second row are actually better, we're going to probably selectively take out about 4 bigger trees here, because the trees behind them still buffer the street. It will open up the tee shot, which is wedged over here by the road, to open that angle up a little bit more. Fairway's been enlarged. We removed the first bunker because it's somewhat irrelevant, but it's only there for really, it only catches higher handicappers or shorter hitters. We take that out. These 2 bunkers have combined into one large bunker along left of the landing area. We keep one little small bunker short right just as an eye appeal. Again, like a couple other greens, we've taken this green and we've flipped it over to try to open up some space that right now it's very tight between this green and the back tee on hole number 12. Going to slide that green slightly to the left, flip it over, again, create some buffer between 11 green and 12 tee. Hole 12, again, the 2 bunkers short, been removed. The bunker on the inside right remains, as you can see over here. Comments we got from focus group sessions was the approach is too narrow. Okay? So one of the things we want to do is we're going to buy you a little real estate here. We're going to fill this lake out a little bit. If you all can see in the picture here, this very, very shallow area right here, this is the one lake we're actually going to come and dig it out. This tells you this is really shallow. It's not the most aesthetically pleasing lake because it looks like a lot of overgrown weeds and things like that. So we're actually going to come dig all this shallow area out and use that to pack along this side to buy yourself a little bit larger approach. The green is basically in the same place. A bunker exists. We've shown you a couple holes where a bunker exists right of the green to protect the water, like holes number 1 and 2 and 3. In this case, we're going to have a bunker slightly left of the green in case you bail out left. There's something to catch you from going right in the lake. Similar to holes number 9, we will actually elevate the backdrop of the screen and actually put some color back there as well, because there's a high foundation there already. Okay. Hole 13, 2 bunkers long are removed. We insert 1 bunker along right over here. All right. We're actually going to fill a little bit of lake in here as well and insert a new bulkhead wall along that edge. The reason why sometimes we put bulkhead walls in when we're in very tight space is because a lake slope in Palm Beach County is typically built to about a 4-to-1 slope. If your fairway is, say, 4 or 5 feet above lake level, that means you've got 20 feet that's just being used up for a slope. All right? When we're in a very tight space where we need a little more real estate, per se, we'll put a wall in to capture that. So it basically goes up. It actually pitches away from the wall slightly. So if you're errant anywhere in that 20 feet, you don't go in the lake anymore where you did before. So we're trying to buy you some real estate with these walls. Plus, they have an aesthetic appeal as well. All right? So we're adding a wall to this, putting a new bunker in long right for longer hitters. The green is in the same location. We get rid of the back 2 bunkers and keep the bunker short right with a big collection area in behind the backside. Okay. Hole 14. Again, bigger tees. We are going to flip the cart path to the left-hand side of the tees, so when you're standing on the back 2 or 3 tees, you're not looking down a big ribbon of concrete, is what you stand there looking at it right now, so it's kind of taking your cart path out of view. The fairway bunker has been removed. We're going to put a bigger tree over here on the left-hand side as a replacement. Unlike what's existing here, we see the existing hole forces players to come in over the water to get to the green. The bailout side's been removed because there's a bunker on the bailout side. We prefer just the opposite, where there's still some protection. That's what we call that Sunday pin placement back left, but the bailout side is now open. For those of you who are not comfortable going for that green in 2, now have a place to come up to the approach and then chip on in 3, something like that. So it's still the challenge there for the good players, a little more fair for the higher handicappers. Hole 15. Probably the least favorite green on the golf course, per a lot of the comments we got from your focus group sessions. Not a big change here in the first part of the hole, other than there's 2 bunkers right. We just get rid of the first one because it's actually almost a double hazard going over the second one. The other 2 stay placed to squeeze the landing area just as it exists right now. We take the second bunker here short right of the second landing area, move it left, make the fairway move a little bit around it, put 3 trees over this side. The biggest change on 15, We're going to take that green, which has been on the very top of the hill, where those of you know if you hit it and go over, you fall right down into somebody's backyard. Okay? It's been a big complaint. So we're actually going to recess that green down about 3 or 4 feet, bring it forward about 7 to 10 yards, but leave the elevation behind as a containment or a backdrop. That green will be lower and more forward, so if you miss the green by, 5, 6, 7 yards right now, you're still in a playable condition and not an OB. So leave the backdrop up with some landscaping. What this will look like in 3 dimensions is something like this. Again, the biggest focus on 15 is really just fixing that green complex. Okay. Hole 16. Some of the same similarities as number 9 a little bit. The tees obviously can't move. They're on a kind of a point out there. We shorten the cart path a little bit to turn around here to try to make a little bit larger tee square footage. We've got a new rock or wood bulkhead wall, whichever one is preferred, showing along the green complex. The green itself will actually, even though it's not shown real well here, will actually slide down, and we'll make sure that we mirror, because it's on the other side of the street, what we did on hole number 9 as far as that backdrop and that aesthetic appeal that you see not only from the hole but also from the street behind. Okay. Hole 17. As you know, a year or 2 ago, this hole was modified per the club's request to create a short game area. The hole was built actually like it was drawn here. However, the green was never moved when the short game area was built because we weren't constructing greens at the same point in time. So this hole that right now is a very short par 4, I think it's in the neighborhood of 265 or 270. We extend that green actually another 40 to 45 yards. So this hole will become 310-ish, 315-ish, somewhere in that neighborhood, something like that. The strategy of what's existing out there will remain today. If you're looking at this picture, this is an old picture. We didn't have the county updates their aerials every 2 years, so this is the old image in case you're looking at it like it's funny. This is the new hole. It is played to the exact same, the position of the landing area is actually the green as it exists today. The new green is another 45 yards longer. We insert a new long, large bunker left along the water's edge. We're going to, because it's a short hole, we're going to squeeze that pinch point down to a fairway that might only be about 27 yards wide. If you want to play a little short of that with a lesser club, a hybrid, or maybe some kind of an iron, 45 yards wide out here, just a little bit longer shot going in. Okay? If you want to try to, what we call thread the needle and go a little forward with the driver, take your chances. You may have nothing more than a bump and run shot if you're lucky, if you're not wet. Okay? What this hole looks like in 3 dimensions is this. Okay, again, little squeeze here. If you want to pull out a drive, you're taking a risk. You may be in a bunker, you may get wet. If you're lucky enough, you're bumping and running. Otherwise, the safe play is with holding back in here. You have maybe an additional 30 or 40 yard shot over trying to squeeze one through the pinch point. Okay, creating some backdrop, some elevation behind that green, a little bit of color as well. Lastly, hole 18. Because we're taking 17 green and we're actually going to move it to the east slightly, we're going to take the back tees on 18 west, along with the back tee on 18 east, and we're going to slide them to the east. We're actually playing to the exact same landing area. We take the bunker that exists here, we slide it up the hole just a little bit more, again, to make it more relevant for longer hitters so that shorter hitters have a much wider fairway, all right? The green itself is in the same location, but very similar to, I believe it was hole 14, we want to open up what we call the bailout side, where right now the bailout side is protected by bunkers. We still want to keep this green out on a point on the water's edge to protect that, we call that Sunday or that championship pin placement, but allow an opening here to come in when it's not blocked by sand bunkers. Again, the back of the screen, slightly elevated, a little more color that you can see not only as you play the hole, but also looking down from the clubhouse. So that's the biggest change here. I do want to point out this little dashed line right here. We talked about all those little lakes we filled in over time. We're taking out the waste area here. We're going to turn it into water. Literally, this one cut of lake right here basically balances the entire, all those little fills on the golf course, almost balances that back out. Okay? A few other little cuts and expansions I didn't mention, but that's balancing that whole entire out so that we are good from the permitting standpoint for this project. So with that being said, that is the end of the presentation. We thank you for your time today, and we look forward to talking to you in the very near future.